1,000 people may be different in many ways, but there's one thing that brings them all together. The Green Bay Packers. In Titletown, the blue-collar city only knows hard work, tailgating, championships, but more importantly, they know family.
We have a saying in this town: faith, family, and the Green Bay Packers are all that you need. Sanjay and I grew up in Green Bay. You could say that we are Green Bay, or even better, the voices of Green Bay. We bring a local feel of Packer fandom to a worldwide audience.
Friendship, family, and football.
Ladies and gentlemen,
this is the Freezer Podcast. What is up? We are back. This is the Freezer Podcast, where we bring you a local field Packer fandom to a worldwide audience. Alongside me, like always, is Fred and Matt, and we are live in our home studios, brought to you by Game On Wisconsin. And boys, we are 7-8. Holy shit! I can't believe I'm doing this.
Let's go.
Used to be like where we'd say like we're above 500, we'd do our record, but you know what? This is a 3-game win streak in the Miami Meltdown. It's a Victory Tuesday. It's a Taco Tuesday. So enjoy some tacos with us today, and enjoy a quick hour with us before we get you squared away before the Badgers bowl game. Yeah, really late bowl game tonight, 9 o'clock. So get your popcorn ready for that. But guys, we came out of Miami with a win. I know. I mean, I picked us to lose, so I'll eat my crow. But what a weird game.
No, continue.
Okay, fine. I'll
continue on your crow.
Yeah, I was an idiot. I mean, again, this is a team that I thought, played really well against Buffalo in terrible conditions. It's been going through the motions, losing 3 in a row to good opponents. You got Rodgers coming in town. You got the bad vibes of Florida. You have our inconsistent offense and our shaky defense. I didn't know if we had the mojo to go up against, Waddle and Tyreek Hill and Mostert, but in the end, we did. I mean, the defense came to play. That's where we'll start first, because that's obviously the biggest, topic of at least this game's discussion. But Fred, your thoughts overall in the game, and then you're more specifically on the defense.
I'm not feeling that much better about this.
I know. Like, this is so weird.
I want to, right? We all really want to. Everything's lining up, right?
It's is
like perfect storm. I mean, okay, there's a lot of me I'm hyped now, right? I'm feeling a little bit of like playoff pre-jitter hype. Obviously there's still work to do, but a lot of work, like if it wasn't for all the other teams losing and kind of like creating this perfect storm, I don't know if I'd be as excited. The Miami game, though, it wasn't like a game we went out and we got done with it, and I was like, oh yeah, we smoked that team. Tua concussed, clearly made some incredibly terrible throws to kind of seal the game for us. If they were smart and they just ran Mostert the rest of the game, they would have absolutely dominated us. I'm pretty sure he was averaging like 11 yards a carry, and then they decided to jump off that. Waddle and Tyreek, I thought for the most part did what they needed to do and what they could do against this defense. But there's still some good to it, right? There were still turnovers. Our team seemed to kind of come together and win when they needed to win, which I thought was something that I haven't seen them do in years. Holy crap, Nixon is a real deal. He's electric. But I think I'm at the same point I was last week, Matt. I don't know if I'm any more hyped or feel any more confident that this team is like a legitimate playoff contender. It feels just like we're winning games. And I guess that's enough, right? I mean, we've seen other teams do it. I've said for years, guys, on this show, and I know I've said it again this year, I don't need a hot start. I need a hot finish.
You got it this year.
I don't know if we're hot. I don't know if we're hot, but it sure seems like we're getting better at the right time. So I don't know. What do you think, Matt? Do you think we're getting better? Are we hot or are we not? Are we fake? Are we real? What's up?
Well, I mean, I said if we beat the Dolphins, I'm getting hyped. So I'm hyped. I'm starting the engine. Let's go. look, guys, a month ago, we're sitting here and all of us stuck stakes in the Packers. We gave the funeral. We wrote the obituary. We were all looking at next year. None of us gave a damn about this year. Hey, a couple weeks later, look at us. Things are happening. Teams are losing. We need to lose. Yeah, the Packers beat two lousy teams, but I mean, nobody thought we were going to win against the Dolphins. Sanjay put money against the Packers, and by my calculation, I think he's 0-2 now, and he wagers against the Packers audibly. I know of two. I know of two different. I know. Okay, I'm just saying. Maybe you'll learn your lesson.
It's a win-win. If we lose, I win money. If we win, I'm a happy Packer fan.
Well, maybe just keep betting.
Maybe I just keep doing it. Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Mikey's right in town. Of course, I will.
Just doing your part. But I mean, this win was big, and I think you could probably pull it apart. And yeah, there's different things about it that that weren't necessarily great, but they're not rolling over and dying. They're continuing to fight. Yeah. They're finding ways to stay in these games, and even when the game's not going their way, I mean, look, I was telling Sanjay before the show. They were staring 27-10 in the face before the halftime, and that probably would have ended the game. You get that fumble, you go down and get 3, and then you double up out of the half. Next thing you know, it's a ball game, and then they blanked him in the second half, probably because Tua was concussed and didn't know where he was throwing the ball, but they still made the stops, and the offense did enough to generate points to keep them in the game. I actually thought they probably left a 40-burger on the field because they couldn't cap off some of those drives, including the one that came
to open up the series. Right?
But
yeah, that almost took it all the way.
But isn't that part of the problem, right? Like, that's where I'm still a little nervous. Like, a win's a win, right? I say it all the time. I will always take it, no matter the shape, color, whatever it is. But I'm feeling like a few of these wins are against some teams that aren't doing well, that aren't playing well, concussed. We can't quite capitalize on some incredible field position 2 times, right? Jair picks it off on the 14, I believe. And then obviously Nixon's incredible kick return. If you're not scoring there, it goes right back to Louis' point here. Like, we get to the playoffs, we can't make those. We cannot leave points on the table. And so that's where, like, as excited as I am that, holy crap, I mean, we might get to the playoffs, I'm still feeling like there's still a few loose things there that I'm a little nervous about.
The old adage, like playing with house money, I don't think would ever apply better if the Packers were to make the playoffs. To me, if they got in there, it's like, the fear of losing is gone. Like, you shouldn't even be here, but you somehow scrapped and clawed and you're here. And frankly, the NFC is wide open. Other than the Niners, I don't give a damn who they would play. I don't care. I think they can go into Minnesota.
I don't even take the Niners too, honestly. I mean, honestly,
Philly,
can Brock Purdy do it in the playoffs?
Yeah, I don't fear any of them. And if the Packers are seeing some of the stuff out, maybe they become a better opportunistic team. So they're in the moment more. They're game to game. They're not buying into maybe some of the trends they've had throughout the year. I don't know. I just feel like a little renewed optimism. If you can get in, who knows?
I have a question. So, and we've seen this now over the years, and this is just something interesting. I've listened to the press conferences and stuff, and I don't know if it's all friends of LaFleur or if it's a arrogance thing on the other sideline, but does it just seem like coaches just go against their entire playbook or whatever plan they had? Because you're right. If they just keep running Mostert, Fred, they win that game. Or, if they just keep running the ball, I know he's been having this problem in other games, from what I've heard, with at least Mike McDaniel specifically. But is there just some sort of like aura that, like, Rodgers, we need to beat Rodgers. I'm going to show him, like, let's air raid the ball. We're going to beat them by blah, blah, blah. It's the Green Bay Packers. They bring their fans in our town. And, we have, you're hearing Go Pack Go. I don't want to hear that crap. So they want to feel like they have something to prove, because we see this so many times where people go against their game plan. And it's already happened maybe like 2 or 3 times this year in some of our wins. And you're just like, damn, if they would have just kept doing what they were doing, I think we're done. So I have that question for you guys to see if that is something that you're noticing.
Other teams do it against us. I mean, the Packers do it. They get away from what they're
right. Yeah. I mean, we're the classic poster child of that.
Yeah. But I think in hindsight, the Dolphins, if they kept running the ball, they're tough to stop. But I also thought we played them a little bit better, even in the late first half, because they got the fumble and stuff. But I think if they wanted to probably win the game in retrospect,
so do we have to give Joe Barry more credit now? Let's shift into the defense now. The defense obviously got 3 turnovers, whether they be Christmas gift wrap presents, or not. The fact being is we were in the right position at the right time. We were in a zone for that Campbell and that Rasul interception. The overthrow for Jair was obviously, I couldn't tell if that was in man or not, but do you have to give some sort of credit to Barry, even though the pressure is still not there in the way that we probably like? Obviously, it's not going to be with Gary gone, but I'd like to see more of that. But do you guys see anything different in the defense?
I think the only thing that I would, I guess, maybe give him credit for, because I'm just not ready to give him credit for anything, because I just don't see anything schematically that's crazily different. I think it's more opportunistic moments, and I think that the one thing I would maybe give him, I don't know if this is him or if it's the players, it just looks like there's a little bit more of that kind of rogueness that we talked about earlier in the season. Like Quay is playing just kind of a go do your thing, go get the ball, go get the guy, as opposed to like, no, we're going to keep you in the zone. Like utilizing the athletes that we have on defense. It feels like that. And maybe that's me being naive and just looking at it from whatever point of view. But no, I don't see schematically a whole lot different. That being said, though, I mean, without Gary, I think that the front seven has been playing fantastic. I think that Preston Smith's been doing really well. I think that everybody seems to kind of be feeding off each other. Wyatt, Reed.
Yep.
And I think
big push from
and
Wyatt.
I don't think, but we're getting turnovers, right? I mean, that is the name of the game in any situation, and you can't deny that regardless. So I'm not going to like tip my hat to Barry yet, but something's going on and I like it.
The turnover battle. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead, Matt.
Well, I was just going to piggyback on his point. I think that, it's really difficult without Rashawn Gary in there and not to have that consistent pass rush and a guy that the offense has to devote maybe two guys to block. You're having to come up with maybe other solutions. A guy I noticed that's stepping it up outside of Quay, Preston Smith. He's made some plays the last few games.
9 sacks. I think.
Yeah,
he has
really good.
He's quietly having a kind of a nice year. Kingsley Inigbare seems to be kind of getting it and figuring out. I have some hope for him. Jaron Reed making some plays. So I think the defense, to Joe Barry's credit, is getting these guys to keep playing and to find other guys to step up and get the job done. As much as it pains me to say it, I think he's at least stopped the bleeding in terms of people calling for his head. So we'll see what happens the next couple of weeks. But I mean,
this is what defensive coordinators do, Matt. They keep their job really well in the last 5 weeks when it's time to fire. Yeah, this is usually what happens in Green Bay. But
right, because nobody fires during the season, so I don't give a shit what.
Yeah, unless you're Nathaniel Hackett and then you get yourself fired. But too soon maybe. Real quick.
Oh, that was too late.
Yeah, it's true. Maybe it was too late. Dean Lowry goes on IR, injury for him. Maybe this could be the potential last time we see Dean Lowry in a Packer uniform. But that gives a lot of opportunities now for Devontae Wyatt, which we've been pushing for the last like 4 or 5 weeks. The guy's been showing some splash plays and showing some, signs of life and showing that, okay, maybe this guy that we took in the first round is, have some kind of contributions, have a role in this defense. Hopefully this is kind of his coming out party. Go ahead.
Yeah, we basically got Howard Green back on D line. We got Desmond Howard returning kicks again.
Yeah, it does really feel similar. Who's our Nick Collins though? Who's our Nick? Because it ain't Amos or Savage. I'll say that.
Rudy Ford, dude.
Both of them. Maybe Rudy Ford.
I don't know. I mean, but it just I think you're right. I think there's some really good things kind of getting pushed around, and it is what it is.
So let's switch over to the offense. Definitely a weird, we've kind of already said it. Like Matt said, maybe we left a 40 burger out there. The opportunities, the missed opportunities, I don't know if you call it Aaron Rodgers holding on the ball too long. Cause obviously the one that, we see everybody talking about is the one off of the kick return, fieldage or yardage. And then we, screw up that third down, but do you guys see
first, second, and third down on that?
Right. Yeah. We screwed up all downs basically that series. But your thoughts, guys, especially with this offense, I just, I think we're beating a dead horse here on Aaron Jones. I just don't know. And I wasn't listening to the press conference for Matt LaFleur. I don't know if anybody asked him if he was, what's the game plan on Aaron Jones? Is he hurt? Is he being, saved? They're trying to like save his legs for later. I don't know what you need to save him for. We're in do or die situation every game moving forward. So you just got to use him, but they're not. And when we see AJ Dillon out there, sure, he has his couple or few plays that you're like, oh damn, okay, that it's a nice play. But then you're like, oh, here, let me just run into this offensive lineman and get 1 yard. And then you see Aaron Jones come in, and it's no matter what, it's probably at least 5 yards. And it seems to be like the one issue that I have personally. I mean, I know there's a lot of stuff going on in the passing game, but running wise, I just don't understand anymore. And I'm kind of sick of it, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I don't understand.
It goes back to what you said before, man. I don't think, I mean, there's these game plans, right? I mean, I would imagine the game plan has to be, to give it to Aaron Jones and even AJ Dillon. And it feels like it just always, the script gets flipped. And I don't know. It's a very,
and then when Dillon's out, they go to Patrick Taylor. So I don't even understand.
I know I don't know if there's some weird beef there. I don't know.
Again, yeah, maybe.
Again, I wish I could give you a legitimate like football answer, but I don't have a football answer outside of either like there's beef or they're trying to hold him back from gaining a certain amount of yards so they don't have to like sign him to like a certain extension because there's like a yardage thing there or a touchdown. I don't know.
That'd
I mean, I know it sounds stupid, but like, I don't think I can figure it out, nor can anyone I've ever seen on Twitter, it seems like, figure out why they don't utilize him in either the running or the passing game.
The amount of times I've seen a tweet come out, oh, hey, did you know that we have Aaron Jones on the field? Oh, hey, look, Aaron Jones is back. Oh, wait, did you guys know that he's on the roster? The amount of those tweets I saw on Sunday night, or actually, to be honest with you, in the last 3 weeks, it's been
all season though. And I mean, maybe we're biased because we're Packer fans, but I would stand by that. He's top 5 most dangerous weapons as a football player outside of like a Christian McCaffrey or like a Deebo Samuel when he's healthy. I mean, I just think he's so versatile and so electric and always gaining yards. It just blows my mind that he doesn't get used more.
Yeah, I think he's hurt. I think he's banged up. I think there's something behind the scenes. Maybe not enough to keep him out of the games or practice, but enough to maybe take away some of his burst. I think that's why we're seeing Patrick Taylor come up a lot. Maybe it's because of special teams, but to me, that's a little bit of a sign there. But I do agree. I think in the offseason, I would really love like a detailed answer or explanation from LaFleur or somebody, because they've been punting on that all year long, and they don't really give an answer for it other than, well, we need to review this and get on the ball more. But there's been no like, well, schematically, like, why was there never a total
I call bullshit. That's all it is. Because
I agree.
You just don't even have him in the game. There's one thing if like, okay, he checks out of the audible, he goes to a different thing, or oh, the offensive line is not blocking for him, or he takes it, if he's injured, if he's injured, then tell me that. I'll take that and run. But you're not even putting him in the game. You see him on the sideline with the helmet on, waiting patiently, probably going like this. So
him in the game, like he would demand attention by a defense of at least one player if he's in the game. Why we're not putting our best players, even if you have no intention of running him or passing to him, if there's some sort of like middle school beef, I don't know, but to at least put him in there because someone's going to have to follow him more intently than they would. It's the same reason why I think our offense has opened up a little bit because of Christian Watson, because they have to account for him now.
Well, and once Watson went out, to me, that was when you should have turned then to pivoted to Aaron Jones being the feature part of the offense.
Focus, yes.
Because obviously Watson, when he's in the game, he's a difference maker. And to me, Jones is your other one. So when one's out, you got to go to the other one and vice versa. So I don't know. I think it's something they got to continue to review. And honestly, if they want to make and cap off this playoff run and not just be one and done if they got there, he's got to be touching the ball. You got to figure it out.
Let's talk about Christian Watson. Obviously, he's had a great month. He's had a great, success story ever since, basically that Cowboy game. And you've seen his importance. Obviously, Matt LaFleur was like, yesterday he said, look, he's day to day, but he's an important part of our offense. Well, that's great. I hope he can stay on the field, because that just seems like it's one little hit and he's like out. Like he had a hip thing and he's day to day for the rest of this week, but he couldn't go back into the game last week. I get it. You want to like make sure it doesn't get hurt even more, but I just don't understand. Like, Fred, you've always said this about players. Sometimes their body's just not ready for the NFL, or it's not meant to be in the NFL, or maybe they're just not, they're ready to be in this kind of situation with the cold or, whatever it may be. But this guy is so talented, and it's just all he has to do is just stay on the field. Because even with him not getting the ball, he's creating so much disruption for a defense because of his speed, because of his ability to take an end around, whatever it is. But does it leave to a concerning, future too? Forget, this little run that we're going, but going forward with this draft capital that we've spent on him, 2 seconds to move up, take him in, basically, the first round or end of first, early second, whatever it is. Do you think that's a problem with that moving forward?
I mean, I don't think it's, I'm not, I hope not. I guess
Right.
that's what I'm going to say. So here's the thing is, I don't know if it's a matter of, I don't think it's a body issue, right? Like, obviously the guy is pretty built. He seems to do whatever. It could just be like the fact, like, it's just a grind, right? The NFL is a tougher grind. You're coming from playing for North Dakota State. You're playing against a different type of caliber every single week for a lot less of amount of weeks, right? The NFL being a much longer season than college. So between the long season, the grind, playing against all pro, incredibly gifted, strong, huge individuals, it might just be a acclimation thing for him. He's just going to have to go through the year and maybe suffer some things. I want to hope that it gets out of his system. Year 2, he comes back and he's, figured out some things that he needs to maybe do to prepare himself better for a season, get with a better, nutritionist, better
strength and conditioning,
stretching, strength and conditioning, whatever it might be. There's just maybe his approach to the season wasn't the right one. So, I mean, I'm going to chalk that up to my like very political answer. But my Fred answer would be, holy shit, if he's not going to be a guy that we can rely on, that sucks.
Right.
It's like McCarthy used to say, your best ability is availability. And I feel like that's going to be so true with Watson. The only thing that's going to stand in his way of being an elite wide receiver in this league is if he can stay healthy. His durability is going to matter a lot. And I feel like I didn't watch him in college, so I don't know what kind of role he played in the offense. Obviously, he was a receiver and was a damn good one, but I feel like he's taking a lot of shots here. And every time he's getting hit, it's a big hit. And part of that's because the Packers have him over the middle a lot, so he's taking some shots.
Hey,
linebacker,
I'll give the kid some credit. He's holding on to those balls now, and it is awesome. I'm always just like, great catch. Now just stay healthy, because like every time he's showing himself his worth. He is proving everybody, including Aaron Rodgers, like, damn, I can put some balls on this kid, and he's gonna come down with a clutch catch kind of thing, and that's huge. Same thing with Romeo. It's kind of a little bit of a slow start for him, but he started to get himself really acclimated back into the offense. He had an early drop, I believe, in the first quarter, but seemed to have things kind of, calm down for the rest of the game. But yeah, we'll talk about this, because that honestly was one of the most embarrassing. Like, it's not as embarrassing as that lateral in in Las Vegas by New England, but the fact that even the cameraman for the broadcast couldn't even get a good, picture of it, because Matt and I, and I'm sure Fred, were probably thinking that it got blocked. And then we found out it's an actual, fake punt by, I think it's Levitt, right? That ran it.
Yeah.
And it was absolutely eaten alive. And now Matt LaFleur has come out and said, they had their defensive unit out there, which, again, more reason to why you don't send some sort of signal. I don't even care what it is. Flick them off. I don't care. Send some sort of signal that stop it. Don't do the play. But also he mentioned that he was, we have footage now. We can learn from this. Like, I don't care if we have footage now. It looked idiotic then, and you should have a play, especially not at 4th and 4. Maybe 4th and 1 I'd have been maybe okay with it. But your thoughts maybe on this ridiculous in our own territory 4th down conversion?
Terrible. Terrible. It was the worst. It was bad timing. I don't think there was anything about that scenario that called for a fake punt, and maybe that's why they ended up trying to do it, just to sneak it past him. But obviously it faked nobody, because they left their defense on the field essentially, and the Packers didn't recognize it. But I mean, I'm all for stuff like that, but maybe not in that kind of game when you're on your own 30-yard line and it's 4th and 4. If it's 4th and inches and you're at midfield and maybe a little bit past that, okay. But in that scenario against that offense, I thought that was a really poor timed thing. And frankly, I have to think Matt LaFleur knew that was coming. He should have vetoed that immediately. Like, no. We're in this game. Well, we can't do that right now. He did it, and it could have been disastrous.
Yeah, I mean, they got it. Like, it's a LaFleur thing, right? Like, he's got to take the credit, like, for or against that. So I guess my question would just be like, year 4, man. Like, you can't be making shitty, stupid mistakes like that. Like, those are the things that bother me about LaFleur. Is I do think for the most part he's a good coach, but it's like it's the classic. I always want to say, like, there you go, thinking again, Matt. Stop.
Well, I think he gets talked into shit a lot. He doesn't put his foot down like Rodgers.
Okay,
let's do this. Let's do that. You know,
that's worst. Honestly,
I agree.
You got like a little head in your
because I would much rather
Gross spine.
he's just a mental, like, he's just mentally overthinking thing, trying to like fake out the fake out or the fake outer, as opposed to if you're letting your players convince you of things, like, are you the coach or are you their buddy? Like, let's get that distinguished, because
like
Bisaccia football.
He's too much of a veteran coach. I feel like for even him to come, hey, let's do a fake right now. We haven't done it all year, but we should do it right now. Like, I'm like, where did that come from? I still don't get it.
Well, I mean, hopefully they've learned their lesson. Obviously, we got the win, so it doesn't look bad now. But that would be one of the focal points if we did lose that game. That people would be like, "Look at these idiots." But this kind of still reverts back to our original conversation that we've had for the past few weeks, whether it's win or loss. The conversation about Jordan Love in this offense, because you look at what some of the missed throws, obviously the shot to Christian Watson before the half. You'd like to think that maybe, a different Rodgers makes that throw, or you like to think maybe a younger Jordan Love who, has the accuracy, or not accuracy, but he has the arm strength. He makes that throw, or he sees it right away. And obviously some of the third down conversions that we've seen Rodgers hold the ball too long, take a sack, or he doesn't see wide open players. And, he throws a check down when he could have easily, thrown it up the seam. We've seen it time in and time out for the last, 7 or 8 weeks. And you're starting to see, okay, well, does Jordan Love have the ability to at least see the whole field? Because a lot of times, and I hate saying this, but you look at any film or any kind of, replay or whatever you want to do, you're seeing guys wide open. And I don't know if that's hey, time is catching up to Aaron Rodgers kind of thing, or he's just solely looking at one thing and he's saying, I'm not even looking at anybody else. And I'm going back to my old ways of kind of like a Devontae kind of issue. And I'm just going to throw it to the guy that I want to throw to. What are your thoughts on that?
I feel like I said this last week, and I feel like you guys looked at me weird about it, or at least you looked at me weird, Sanjay, or maybe you just caught a glimpse of me in your monitor. But, I said, I don't think there's been a game this year that Rodgers has won us the game on his arm, only his arm. Yeah, I just don't see it. I don't think it's happened. And again, that's not at all me saying I don't think Rodgers is great. It's not me saying he's not capable. It's not me saying he's not whatever. I just say we are very accustomed, right, for the last 16, 17 years of watching him single-handedly go out and win games. And maybe that's with Adams, and maybe
I'd argue the Cowboy game, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, that would be one that I would say he definitely played lights out. But there's not been any game other than that I think he's come out and we've been like, gosh, if we didn't have Rodgers, we would have never won that game.
You are very right there.
And I think that's what brings me back to Jordan Love and being like, I think that Jordan Love could do it. Now, when you see a scrambling off your back foot, rainbow shot into the absolute perfect spot for Mercedes Lewis on the sideline, you're like, what the hell? Like,
that's your vintage
that throw is absolutely gorgeous. I mean, mechanically, it's terrible,
right?
But an absolutely gorgeous, like unprecedented, ununderstanding. How did you make that throw? And you see that, and you're like, okay, he still has this ability. But then you will literally watch him drop back in 5 yards in front of you. Lazard comes across, stops, waves his hands, and he completely misses it until the defender basically is dry humping him on the goal line. So you're like, where's that? Right. So I don't know. I do think that Jordan Love could do everything he's doing right now without a question. Obviously we're going to still take Rodgers here, but I think the main point when it comes to the Rodgers versus Love whatever drama saga discussion, whatever you want to call it, is what you said about your third downs, right? The holding the ball in the third downs, trying to make a play happen on a third down. I will give him credit this week. He did decide to use his legs, but that's where Jordan Love could absolutely change a game.
The no gain RPO that we saw last.
Yeah, I know. And last week going into the Rams game, you know, he was over under 2.5 yards of rushing. I bet the over big, and of course lost because he wouldn't do anything. And then this week he decides to go run it a bunch. That's neither here nor there. But I mean, it's definitely here because I was pretty pissed. But the difference is, I think of all of those 3rd and 2s, those 3rd and 3s, which we love, right? That's what we talk about all the time. If you can get yourself in 3rd and 2, 3rd and 3, 3rd and 4, you are ahead of the ball here. Those 3rd and 3s, 3rd and 4s, 3rd and 2s, whatever you want to call them. If I have Jordan Love at quarterback, my confidence is skyrocketed. And that's crazy to think, because I would be much more confident with Jordan Love in that situation than I would with Aaron Rodgers, solely because I trust that,
out of the pocket.
That one, he can get out of the pocket, but 2, that Jordan Love is actually going to look for the first down. He's not going to try to chuck one up to Watson, which, okay, he was open. It was the right throw. I get it, but it just didn't feel like the necessary throw at the time. And I think that's the difference. I think Love can almost kind of give you sort of a guarantee first down on those short yardage plays, where Rodgers just doesn't seem to have that. And that kind of freaks me out.
Matt, do you remember the time? Go ahead.
No,
I was just to say, do you remember the time when we used to be so angry when we do the 4th and 1, 3rd and 1, whatever it is, and we take the shot deep down the field? But then before that, we had the Kuhn experience where we were like, fullback dive. Let's just do it. It works every single time. And then on Sunday, we finally see Rodgers do a QB sneak. And it's been, I think they said it was 4 years since we've seen him do a QB sneak. And I'm like, why is this guy not sacrificing his body? Because he can clearly do it. Just do it more often. I feel like we'd get a lot more 4th and 1s or 3rd and 1s if he just, got up to the line right away and just, like hike the ball and just go for it. I've seen the Eagles do it masterfully. I've seen basically any team in the NFL just do a QB sneak really well. So
31 other teams run a QB sneak. I don't know why.
Because I've even seen Brady run some routes and do some QB sneaks.
Is there some data out there that says quarterbacks are getting injured on QB sneaks? I don't understand.
But Matt, I want to get your thoughts on this because it's kind of an important detail about the win on Sunday. We go into a place that we have, I think we've done pretty well in Miami actually, but in the sense of Florida itself, now granted it was a little colder, so maybe that had some sort of effect on the Miami Dolphins, but is there something to say, especially moving forward? Because we've been talking about this, right? This momentum, this feel good, this vibe, right? That, okay, even though it's been against 2 terrible teams and, one, moderately good team, but, with, a lot of inexperience, but that like hope, I guess you could say, that knowing that, look, this could be real, and having all those things go your way, earlier on the weekend, but to have this win in an area that you're not really generally good, which is Florida, for Rodgers mentally, for LaFleur as a coach, and just as a team, your thoughts at least moving forward, what does that kind of do to propel us moving forward, I guess?
Well, I mean, it's a good experience because, if you are going to make the playoffs, you're going to have to go on the road and you're going to have to play in a hostile environment. I mean, it sounds like the Packer fans traveled really well, so it wasn't necessarily a hostile environment. But nonetheless, you're going to have to go to San Francisco or in the Metrodome, the U.S. Bank Stadium, Philly. Those fans are crazy. So I just think the whole thing of going through a week's worth of preparation for being on the road and then seeing out the win is good for your psyche and kind of your mental state going into this last couple games here, albeit they're at home. So I don't know. It's a game that people didn't expect them to win. And maybe they obviously thought that they had a shot. I think the rest of the fan base in the sporting world kind of wrote them off a little bit. So right. I just think that it's hard to win in the NFL, no matter who you're playing against. On the road, it's a little bit tougher, particularly you're going on Christmas Day, you're away from your family. It's the traveling is not always great. So I don't know. I just think that you want to, if you're going to go to the playoffs, you want to win your games late in the year and you want to, be figuring stuff out. And that's what they're doing. And I know
stack them, right? Stack these wins.
Stack them. You can yeah, they beat the Bears and the Rams. It's like, yeah, they stink, but they still got them. They beat the Dolphins. If you can go out and beat the Vikings and the Lions, two, I think, pretty damn good football teams, I don't care what you did in the first half of the season. You belong in there if you just rip off 5 or 6 in a row to make it in.
Let's talk about that. This run, everything kind of going our way. The NFC and also obviously the NFL, a lot of interesting things. Did you guys actually think any of this was mathematically possible? I mean, I thought the matchups kind of said, hey, maybe there's a pretty good chance. I mean, right, yeah, exactly. And I thought, well, it's the Commanders, it's the Lions, it's the Seahawks, it's the Giants. These guys have to come back to life, right? Because they're them. They've just, historically just been dog shit for the last 10 years that you're just like, man, they were on a nice early run, in the beginning of the season. They have to come back to life, right?
Yeah, I tell you what, it's just been a weird year because, you lose to the Vikings opening day and then you win 3 in a row. It didn't look great doing it, but you're 3-1, and then you lose 5 in a row, and then you win a really emotional game against Dallas, and then you come out and lose 2 more. It's been up and down and up and down. I mean, I kind of wrote them off. I was done with them when they lost to the Titans. I didn't care if they lost to the Eagles. I'm like, they're not going to win that game anyways, although they played well in it. So to be sitting here 2 days after Christmas, talking about the potential for the playoffs, talking about the Packers winning 3 in a row, talking about them looking like a somewhat competent team. Like, I'm frankly amazed. Like, I really thought that they were just done. They were going to mail it in. The guys didn't seem like they were totally into it. The locker room was kind of weird vibes going on. So I don't know, man. It's just a credit to the coaching staff and the players for sticking with it. Even if they don't make it, the fact that you're playing games that still matter at this point, I think says a lot about the character of the team, the locker room, and maybe we didn't give enough credit for being a little bit more mentally strong than they were. They just went through some tough times early in the year, and who knows, maybe this gives way to a miracle run that goes into the playoffs and something in next year. So I'm excited to find out. We'll see what happens. This could all end in a couple days for all I know, but let's enjoy it while we have it.
We've been saying that for the last couple weeks,
yeah.
But well, we are finally back home. Not finally, we was only gone for 1 week, but we're home again for this nice little stretch here with 2 games against the Vikings. They come into Green Bay, and I'm sure all these Minnesota fans are going to buy these tickets. I am still flabbergasted how many Viking fans I see at a Lambeau game. I'm so confused because I don't see the same thing in Minnesota. I really don't. I don't ever see that overwhelming amount of fans in that stadium than I do when they come to Lambeau. And maybe I'm wrong, but I've been to plenty of Viking games, and it's just like, why am I seeing so much purple? But hopefully that narrative changes maybe on this little, cute run that we have here. But go ahead.
Too many people with season tickets that just get them and then sell them immediately. All 8. They just go right to Ticketmaster and then sell them. That's what they do. That's a problem here in Green Bay. So I always tell people, if you're going to sell them, man, find someone to sell them to. Don't go to the brokers, because you just know it's going to the opposing team. That's what's happening.
Yeah, it's a damn shame. It's a damn shame.
So they come into
selling
town.
Your tickets every year and just making money. Give them up, man. Give them to somebody else who wants to
I agree with that. I completely agree with that. And we have this team that clearly is, I mean, everybody's calling them kind of a flawed team, or they're frauds, or they're not really like a true contender for the Super Bowl. Like, what's going to happen when they play a really good team, because they've been in so many, 1-score games, or they win off a field goal. Like in the past week, they kick a 61-yard field goal to win the game when they were down basically the majority of the game. But you think about this team, and everybody's going to look back at that Colts game, and I don't know if they ever even belonged in that game, but damn, they seem to make them think that they belong in that game. Being up 30 to something, I think it was like 30-0.
30-0, yeah.
To just
33.
give up a lead like that. Yeah, I just cannot believe it. I cannot imagine Aaron Rodgers will give up that kind of lead in any situation, but go on.
No, and we've never given up a lead like that. So I'm not really concerned with it. I think Minnesota is very fraudulent, but I also think that behind the fraudulence, there's a lot of really great talent too. So there's definitely something there. I mean, I've preached from the high heavens for years that I think Dalvin Cook is absolutely phenomenal. I would put him in that top 5 guys along with Aaron Jones, Christian McCaffrey, of guys who are just absolutely electric, not only running the ball, but catching the ball out of the backfield. I think him on screens are like, peanut butter and jelly.
Kills us.
They just work, and he's so good at them. And then obviously, Justin Jefferson, like probably one of my favorite people to watch in the NFL, and I hate it. Right? I've hated that pretty much my whole life. Every player that I've absolutely adored watching outside of Deion Sanders has pretty much been in the NFC North. Whether it's Barry Sanders, Walter Payton, Randy Moss, like piss off. Like, come on. And now I got Justin Jefferson, who I think is just absolutely incredible and one of the funnest receivers I've ever watched in the game. And of course you have to be in Minnesota. So if Minnesota beats us, are we mathematically out?
No.
Okay. So to me, I think is a really big deal because so we always talk about it, right? When Minnesota plays Green Bay, it's their Super Bowl, blah, blah, blah. That would have actually for sure 100% made it Minnesota's Super Bowl to the point where they would have thrown everything at the bus to try to knock us out of getting into the playoffs. Since they can't technically knock us out of the playoffs, I think that changes a little bit. Not saying that they're not going to still play us hard, none of that. I just think that the edge kind of leans a little bit towards us in that situation. So that to me is probably my saving grace going into this game.
Yeah, I think Fred, you famously called them like what a Ferrari built on, or like a salvage chassis or something. Like they got all these really, really great pieces and parts, but like, as a whole, there's definitely some flaws there. And this has been a year where the ball has bounced their way. I think they're 8 or 9-0 in games decided by 3 points or less. I mean,
which normally they're on the flip side of that. They lose like 7-8 games by 3 or less.
Exactly. So, it's a little bit of Jekyll and Hyde, which one are they? And you're not sure which one you're going to get. I will tell you that they're going to give us all the Packers can handle and vice versa. Like they're not going to shy away from this. And I know maybe we're not mathematically eliminated, but it pretty much makes it all but impossible.
It's very
to make the playoffs.
impossible.
So it's like they're looking at this as let's beat these jerks and send them home. So, I just think it's one of those games where you have to match emotions and you got to come out right away and set the tone. And I know that that's probably generally the case for most games. But when you get in these division brawls, particularly when the playoffs are on the line, it's like, I think early dominance in the game matters and dictate to the other team. So for me, it's like, the defense is going to have to do again what they did to the Dolphins. Like, I don't know, force them into doing something weird, concuss Kirk Cousins. I don't know do whatever you need to do to tilt the field your way, because it's like they have maybe the best receiver in the league, and then they have maybe the best running back in the league. It's like they do two things that are difficult to defend. Offensively, I'm praying that Christian Watson's healthy, because you're going to need to be able to stretch the field with these guys. And you're going to need Dobbs to stop up. You're going to need, I don't know, Bobby touchdowns to make an appearance. I don't know. I think you need all hands on deck.
Aaron Jones. I mean, he's
how about that? How about that
against Minnesota?
Aaron kills the Vikings. Aaron does.
I think it would be a really big benefit. I mean, so here's the thing: the Colts go up 33-0, but it was the Colts, right? I don't think that ever really put a fear into them.
They have a good defense.
If we can have Minnesota come here and, like, let's just hypothetically let me play the game here, but we have like Nixon return the opening kickoff, and then they go 3 and out, and we go and score another. Like, if we go 14-0, I think it's an absolute blow up, because I think Minnesota just will crumble. Right? It's a big brother effect that we come back to.
It's mentally how to come back from that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think they just always, they're as much as they might say, like, it's finally our year, we're better, like, there's still that element of, like, that big brother effect. I don't care what anyone says. When you own a team for that long, it just kind of happens. That being said, I totally agree with you, Dan. The Christian Watson revenge game, right? That's the game he drops that ball.
That's the game that Fred lost faith.
That's the game I 100% lost
a long road back.
And honestly, I think that was that was the fucking catalyst to the failure of the whole entire season. For this
it really was.
No, but I do think that there's an element to that, right? I think that he's going to want to do something. And I think that, there's a, like, what a trip would it be if it was Justin Jefferson has a 200-yard game, Watson has a 200-yard game, and it's just a fucking shootout, right? Like, sign me up. I'll take that all day. I do worry a little bit about Piss Pants Sedarius and what he's going to do, because he's obviously going to have a little bit of a vendetta and shit like that, and he hasn't quite quit on them so yet. He'll quit after this game if they lose. So like, he's a little bit of a concern of mine, just because he's going to be headhunting again, and they're cheapskates. The crazy thing is, this is crazy. This has nothing to do with the football game, but I'm actually going to be in Minnesota for the game.
What?
Yeah, which,
how dare
first of all, I rarely go to Minnesota for the obvious reasons. But for the Christmas present for the kids, we're taking them to the Mall of America.
Oh, nice.
So I'm actually going to be
in enemy territory,
basically driving into enemy territory while I'm just gonna
you drive right by their practice.
I've had super good success listening to the game on the radio. Like, I had to drive on Christmas Day for a moment, and we did really well. I don't want to jinx it. I probably just did. Fuck. But sorry for swearing. But so I'm kind of thinking maybe that's the play here, right? I'll just we'll just listen to it in the car, and either we end up at the Mall of America and I'm pissed out of my mind, or I'm really happy. But it's going to be kind of weird, right? Because they're all going to be coming to Green Bay, and I'm just going to go drive right past them. Maybe I should write something on, like, the window or something, like big FU Minnesota. So every car that passes me, or I'll just have Charlie go out the window with his middle finger or something.
There you go. Double bird. Everybody in the car. Get the spirit going.
I love this comment. You could be the Trojan horse.
Big dump on their 50-yard line or something.
Yeah, I honestly, it's weird to kind of, I'm going to answer this question because it's a good question too. And
that's a great question.
I do feel like this is a team that has overachieved. Let's be honest. They peaked early, and it's like, can you sustain it with the talent that you have and the inexperience? Because you've never been in this feeling, right? You've never been in this like mode of, oh my God, we're rattling off 4 wins, and then you got
quarterback has
ass. Well, you're right. You got your ass stomped by Carolina. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Like, Sam Darnold just said, nope, I'm not letting you guys come in here and continue your streak. But go ahead,
hard
Matt.
one.
I was gonna say, I think they peaked, like they're winning their games. If they didn't start 1-6 and they started 3-3 or 3-4, something like that, they'd be probably in the playoffs, like a lock for it. But tough to overcome that start. But I like what the Lions are doing. I think that they're a playoff team potentially, but I think that they peaked already. I think that their best football is behind them now, and they hit that apex, and now they're on the way back down, and they're going to lose their last couple games.
Yeah, that's one of those. Like, because I think that offensively, I like a lot of the people they have on that offense.
Yeah.
I think Jared Goff is weird. I don't really know how I feel about Jared Goff, but defensively, obviously, tons of questions. But yeah, it does feel kind of like, I say the big brother thing with Minnesota. It kind of feels like they're all just like assuming that it's just not going to happen. Go back into your shell. Like, you know what I mean? Like, no, go out there and play. You guys might actually get into it. And instead they're like, no, we should probably like that Homer Simpson where he just goes back into that's how I feel
into the bush.
Like, you know what? You're right.
Or the Lions.
We don't belong here.
Actually, yeah, we don't. We probably shouldn't be here.
We are who we thought we were. Like, basically that bridge.
Yeah, like that's kind of how I feel about that.
I do think too with the Lions that if there's one team that I just feel like they have given everything they have, especially trading Hawkinson, who's
playing great for the Vikings. God,
one of the dumbest trades I've ever seen, but maybe they just thought they couldn't sign him. But I thought they had a lot of money next year. But this team fights for Dan Campbell, which is, admirably. I can't even say this word anymore, but it is
big word. Sound it out, bud.
I can't. I'm just not going to do it. They have been playing for him, and that to me that goes above football and the X's and O's, and that can get you 2 or 3 wins in this league. And even if you are somewhat like, a mediocre roster, maybe you're like an above average roster and you're like this, like this like potential, like this ceiling's kind of high, but you don't know if you can believe in it. that can sometimes get you a couple wins because you just trust each other. And a lot of times you see a lot of these teams that lose because they're just not a team. They're not there for each other. They don't have this brotherhood. And maybe that's what the Packers have had for these last like 6-7 years, with this like crew and this roster that's been, together for at least 4 years, and, that they've, created this bond. And I think the Lions have that, and that can go a long way, which is, scary because I like it when they're the dog crap team, and I like that they're the, the doormat of the division. But it's also good in the sense of the NFL if we can get, 32 teams that are just, good, and we don't have dog crap games. I don't want to see these Thursday night games where it's like, Jaguars versus the Texans. Like, I want these teams all to be good, right?
Hey, don't bag on the Jaguars. They're doing all
I'm
right.
just saying, I know, but
No, I know, but you know what? It's also hilarious because when you look at the schedule, right, and you go back on some of these games, like, you'd be hard pressed to not expect that some of these teams were supposed to be better, right? We all had higher expectations for like some of the teams, like the Broncos, the Colts, like people had high,
right.
You expected them to be a little bit more of an entertainment, and for them to be as bad as they are, like, you see the matchup and you're like, yeah, that seemed like a good idea, but
well, we were talking about that NFC West.
Look at the Christmas Day schedule. Clearly, the NFL thought like
yes.
the Packers Dolphins like ended up being like the best matchup, but like Broncos and Rams Super Bowl champs versus like Russell should have been great. What was the nightcapper or the one between?
Cardinals to Buccaneers
should have been epic matchup. But who cares?
Yeah. No, that's
well, that NFC or AFC West was supposed to be the division of all divisions. And then you look at the Raiders and the Broncos are just awful. But
well, and the Chargers, I mean, they clinched, but they were treading some pretty thin water there.
Why are they not
barely won last
13
night?
Games a year with Justin Herbert? I
think that organization is somewhat cursed as well. It's very
Aaron Rodgers in the first for Justin Herbert. Who says no?
Fire Brandon Staley, let Sean Payton go there. He'll be in the league for 20 years, win 4 more Super Bowls with Justin Herbert.
Yeah.
All right. Let's get to predictions and then we'll get out of here. The Vikings are in town. Matt, what do you got for this game? 3:30 Central Time, right?
Yeah,
Dude, are you going to the game? Wait, did sell it or are you going?
I am not going. I am not going.
You're one of those guys. You better make sure you've gave them to Packer fans.
Yeah, I did. So we're good. Our bases are covered. So my seats are not going to the NB territory. I'm excited for this. Here we are. I hate the Vikings. Every sport ever. They're my least favorite team. So inherently, this game is always pretty hyped for me. I'm glad it has some extra meaning on it because I thought for a while it was just going to be a meaningless game for the Packers and they would just get bulldozed by a superior team. But so here we are. And we have a chance to maybe knock them down a peg off of that 2 seed, which I don't know if that's a good thing or not, because maybe they might be our potential matchup. But the Packers are riding high, and I know the Vikings are too. They got a little bit of a streak coming in. They're coming off their big win against the Colts the other week, and I forget who they beat this last week, but or were they're the Thursday game? I forget. Everything's blending together these days. The Colts and the Vikings. Was that 2 weeks ago or last week?
Ooh, that was a.
Wasn't it it wasn't a Sunday game?
It was a Saturday game. It was a Saturday game.
Yeah, it was a Saturday game.
Saturday at 11. It was Saturday at 11. It was the first weird game. Yeah.
So we're gonna take the best shot. Throw records out the door when it comes to division rivals. The Packers defense. This is the first place I go. I know you're not going to get
on Christmas Eve.
The Giants, that's who they beat. So I knew they had a game between. Okay, so they're right. They got a little bit of streak coming too. So I don't know. I just think the Packers are scrappy right now. They're not excelling one way or the other. No, but they're just getting enough done, making enough plays to make it work. I think there's some extra motivation when it comes to playing the Vikings. My one ask is that Zadarius Smith does nothing. Like I think that the first game he had like 2 or 3 sacks. I can't stand that guy. Like I think he's a blowhard, and I just hope he has nothing but bad luck on Sunday, and they lose because he did something dumb. I don't know. That'd be great, but
yeah, I agree.
I just not a fan of his anymore. And then offensively, Aaron Rodgers, I think is his last couple games at Lambeau, who knows what's going to be happening? Does he take advantage? How does the weather look? It's supposed to be, I think, a little bit warmer this weekend, not going to be super, super cold. So I don't know, man. I'm just looking for the Packers to be consistent and be steady throughout the game. I expect this to be up and down. I expect the Vikings to maybe come out and punch us in the mouth first. The Packers have absorbed some of these blows lately and fought back. So I'm going to go ahead and assume that Christian Watson's available for this game. I'm going to go ahead and think that we're pretty healthy. Maybe we see David Bakhtiari back from the spleen or the whatever he had out.
Appendectomy?
His appendectomy. So that would be a big boost, although, Zach Tom's playing well, but the Vikings have a great defensive front. So I'd love to see Bakhtiari back in the fold. But if we're going to roll us into predictions here, I like the Packers in a close one. I think that they're focused right now. You got the home game. You're doing enough to generate points and doing enough on defense to get stops when you need them. So I think they continue that trend against a familiar opponent, against a Viking team that's susceptible to be scoring on. They're not a perfect team, as we've noted before. So I think the Packers get over the 30 mark here. I'm going to go ahead and say they win this game 31-27. I think they win it by 4. It's close. Yes.
Beautiful.
All right.
That's hilarious. You were literally I'll tell you my prediction. So truth be told, I'm terrified. I'm very nervous about it.
If you're terrified, that means
again,
not gonna do it.
I feel like I see Dalvin Cook run really well. Justin Jefferson scares me. I have nightmares of week 1, where he just seemed to not have any problem at all finding open spots, getting open. Would like to think, obviously, that we're going to change that. We're not going to repeat week 1. The weird thing is honestly, in my heart of hearts, I thought we absolutely got trounced week 1. Turns out it was only 23-7. That's really not that crazy. In my brain, it felt like a 48.
It did feel like that.
So
statistically, it was like that.
Yeah, I just was looking at that and I'm like, wow, that's actually not as bad. And that was what? Minnesota playing at their absolute best and us playing at our absolute
home,
worst.
right?
And we only lost by 3 touchdowns. Like, that does seem like a lot, but you know what I mean? Not even fully 3 touchdowns. So I'm just kind of feeling like I'm a little anxious, more anxious than I usually am, right? Going into a game against Minnesota. But that being said, really grateful that it's going to be at Lambeau. Really grateful. I don't think if it was in Minnesota, you'd probably see me lean towards that L. But because it's in Green Bay, I feel more confident. The little tidbit you put there of could this be potentially the last 2 games of Rodgers? That very much could play into a game because you just know that if that is at all in his mindset, he ain't going out losing. There's no way in hell Rodgers goes out losing. And there's some sort of feeling of I could take the Vikings down a notch, like you said. So I do think that it's going to be, again, I echo a lot of what you said, Matt. I think that we're going to get knocked in the mouth bad, and it's going to be quick, and we're going to very much think, holy shit, we are week 1, here we go again.
Yeah, look out.
I could see us going down 14-0, me start throwing up my hands on Twitter, freaking out, texting you guys. I'm going to be walking around punching people at Mall of America. I'm going to get kicked out. Things are going to get really awkward. It's going to be a terrible family vacation, Griswold style. I'm going to freaking lose it. But I think we come back. I think we fight back. It's been kind of our MO for the first time ever in the history of me being a fan, it feels like, of this team actually having some dog and some grit in them. And I think that they go out and they fight for it here in Lambeau. And this is why I laughed, because in my head, this was my number way before you picked it. But I have them winning with a last second, I should say, Mason Crosby kick, 31-28.
Awesome.
Interesting. The stage is set for your boy.
Hold on. All right, what do you got, turd face?
Well,
don't do it.
We don't have Bakhtiari yet. I feel like this has been that, like, maybe he's going to come back, because he did come back the last time, like at this time with like 2 games left to play. I think he came back in the very last game, actually. But either way, this would be a perfect time for him to come home in Lambeau, get that announcement, you're starting left tackle or whatever tackle he's going to be, and he comes out there and he shuts down Zadarius Smith. That would be a perfect, dream scenario in my mind. So hopefully this week he can practice. I hope Christian Watson. I hope Keyshawn Nixon. I hope, Yash Nyman. They all practice. And
so none of those were crazy injuries, right? None of those are like injuries we have to be.
Apparently they're all day to day, except for obviously David Bach. We don't know.
Just want to throw that out there.
Yes. So I don't know. We'll find out how tough these guys are and ready to go by 3:30. But let's hope that we get some good news Friday night, Saturday morning, whatever it is that they release it. But I will say this one thing, and I will say this, and you guys hopefully know this, but I have never, ever picked against the Packers, against the Vikings in Lambeau. I have always picked the Packers to, lose here and there because we always split this series. We really do. We don't really play well in Minnesota unless you talk about the James Jones hoodie game. We really don't play that well
or
in
the pandemic
Minnesota.
year.
Right. Yeah. So I do usually pick us to lose, especially opening week. We didn't really know what these receivers were going to be. I thought I had a justifiable reason to do that. This time around, I don't pick the Packers to lose in Green Bay. I don't do that. I don't care.
I knew you wouldn't.
I don't care if Adrian Peterson runs for 200 yards and we go out as a tie. That was one of the worst games I've ever been to. Oh my gosh, I still remember that day. Cold as all hell. But I'm picking this game to win. I'm not going into the 30s because I just don't know if we physically can put up 30 points. I know we have once, but I'm going to say 28-21. It is going to be straight touchdowns. Mason Crosby, we love you, but I don't want to see you out there unless we're getting an extra point.
PATs,
so we're getting touchdowns. It's going to be a 4-quarterback touchdown day for Mr. Aaron Rodgers. It's going to be 2 to Lazard, 1 to Dobbs, and 1 to Aaron Jones. All right. That's how I'm going to see it. And Aaron Jones hopefully gets to be used this week. I really hope because they'll help my fantasy team. But that's what I see, and I hope it can happen. There's your predictions.
God, that makes me so happy.
Thank you guys so much for joining us each and every week. We're obviously back on Tuesdays right now, so it was great that you guys came out on Thursday, which was weird, but we're on a Taco Tuesday, so that's all that matters. It will be bringing in the new year when we get into that Packer game.
Ooh,
so
next year.
Whatever resolutions you guys have for the next year, I hope you hit them. Just remember that you always have the Packers, all right? Remember that each and every year, you always say, I love my Green Bay Packers, and then everything else will set itself in place. That's all you need. Thank you guys so much again. I'm Sanjay. That's Fred. We'll see you next year.
How about that's Matt?
What did I just say?
I'm Sanjay, and that's Fred.
Wow.
What about me?
Come on. Next year. Yo.
Come on.
Go Pack, go!
Go Pack, go, baby.